Hello, Dwarves. We are back with another striking gold, this time with Vesper or Natalie. Um, they placed and won at two separate tournaments. Cloud City uh, played to win 10 and at the Mulligans Championship January. So, first of all, congrats.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I love the dwarfs, and I've never met a Magda player that I didn't like as a person. Like, it's the best.
I've only met one, and they're in this room, and I won't tell you which.
Ooh, the
It's
suspense and drama.
it's me. It's not even close.
It's so we got Rust and Show here, both whom I care for deeply. Um, and they're gonna be talking through the deck list, a little bit about the tournaments involved, but mostly about the deck list and the choices because there's some differences, folks. This is not your grand dwarfs Magda deck. So Vesper, if you don't mind, we're gonna jump into some just quick Q&A on you. Is that okay?
Oh, that's perfect. I love that.
So,
Keeps me from rambling.
all right. So, uh, if you haven't yet, make sure you tune into the stream in the chat and you'll be seeing the questions as I'm reading them. We have a full slideshow here. Um, so first of all, what is your background in tournament CDH? Like, how far back does that go? What have you played, etc.?
So I started playing at a friend's behest back in 2018. And before I got into CDH, I thought, as most people do, that, oh, it's no fun. It just ends in a turn and, you get stomped and then move on to the next one. And that doesn't sound like any fun at all. But our pod had been creeping up in power level where we were basically already there. And then after I tried it a bit, then I realized, like, oh no, that's not what it is at all. It's about like tightening up your play. It's about playing the best cards at the right time, responding to the right things, understanding the stack. And so once I went in, I just never looked back. And I got in on Magda. It was actually a list that Comedian put out there. I think maybe as soon as the card dropped, because it was back in 2018. But I said, well, this is a good deck. I love that it's toolbox. I love that it goes and gets the things that it needs. I love that it's monocolor, so I don't have to like drop a huge budget maybe if I don't end up liking CDH. And so started out with that, had some budget choices and really liked it. And then of course Orcish Bowmaster came out and then it was less fun. So I moved to Tibet for like a couple of months and then I found out about Roaming Throne and I was right back and I've been on it ever since.
Yeah, those like I want to say like 3 or 4 months before Roaming Throne, before Ixalan came out, were like literally the worst you could possibly be. It was like maximal Magda respect with minimal Magda tools to deal with said respect. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had like a year and a half of just tears of excellent red cards and artifacts. Uh, so yeah, that was a pretty good time to get back in. Thanks for sharing. Speaking of Magda and respect, at either tournament, how did you feel uh your Magda at the table was respected throughout your tournament play, at least at the last two?
Well, you always go into a game playing Magda as archenemy. Like it doesn't matter what your board state is. It doesn't like people mulligan for you. They're like, oh,
Yeah, that's
gotta
so
keep
fucking
interaction to
brutal.
kill Magda because it goes under the radar and then you can't deal with it. So Magda will die. So you have to go into a tournament like being able to do more than people think that you're capable of.
Yeah. No,
Like over respect, I would say.
yeah, that mirrors my experience. And that you would say this is pretty consistent between the two tournaments.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually am a tournament grinder, so people know of me. And so I go in and I have a pretty healthy respect when I sit down at a table.
All right.
In fact, it works against me sometimes because when you get in a pod with newer players, if there's another grinder in there, you can get the whole table against you.
Yep.
Like, because they'll say, oh, the Magda player's got two dwarfs. They're going to win. They're in a winning position. You guys don't understand this. Like, you have to use your interaction. So I've sat down at a table and that's it. I've just had 3 decks against me. And sad enough, the newer players usually don't win. It's usually that one experienced player that's orchestrating, the target zone.
Yeah. Getting your 2-0 and in is often off the back of mind controlling the worst pit player in your pod. Um,
It's horrible, and I really wish the community as a whole wouldn't treat the newer players like that. But I know some people that are focused on the wins, like, and the politics works, and the newer players just have to get the confidence to rely on their own judgment calls instead of going, well, okay, you're a great player in the community. I'm just going to listen to you and do the thing and not focus on my own win. Like, everybody should be knowing that they don't have your good interests at heart. They're going to win too.
yep.
So,
So, if you can like separate the two tournaments in your head, how do you feel like Magda just generally fared against the meta in terms of matchups?
so the Mulligans meta is very tournament centric. You have such amazing talent in that pool, and they actually have such turnouts. It's a fantastic store, Mulligan Games, Warminster, PA. They have monthly tournaments the first Sunday of each month, and they max out. So definitely, if you're in the area, sign up for that tournament. Top Deck points if you're interested in the invitationals. So that one, you just always go in knowing I'm going to go against the heat. You're going to have comedian there. You're going to have Jorman there. You're going to have the New York crew. Like, they're so good. You just call them the New York crew. So, so you're going to face all those people, and you're going to know that if you're not at your top game, if you're not like really focusing, you're just not going to get there. And I went into that tournament not thinking that I would win at all. I went into the top 4 not thinking I would win at all. I was like, "Oh my gosh, comedians in this pod. Okay, well, I'm going to try my best." And if I had done anything else, any other actions than the way that game progressed, I wouldn't have won because I went for a win and a comedian had interaction for me. He had bounce Magda on, whenever he wanted to. So basically, I went into my turns. I dropped a couple of early dwarfs. I dropped with a springleaf drum. I dropped a Magda. I went into turn 3 with 2 treasures and dwarven armor, and then another 1-pip dwarf and Magda. And so I used one of my treasures to play Roaming Throne. That resolved. And I didn't have any tappers other than Springleaf Drum. So I was going to combat to do all this stuff to get my treasures. And so I went to go into combat. Comedian knew that. And he bounced my Magda right at the beginning of combat because he didn't see on board with the Springleaf Drum and the Dwarven Armor, I had 2 taps and 1 treasure. So I basically tapped my Springleaf Drum to make 2 treasures, to make a red, to tap the Dwarven Armor to discard the other Magda, the less good Magda, and to put a counter on my primary Magda. That got me to 5. Nobody else had interaction. I won with that bounce right on the stack. If I had done anything else, if I had any different board state, I couldn't have got there.
Uh, Um, just want to say that that was a pretty clear laying out of the fact pattern of that game, and you warned us that I may not have the best memory about how this tournament shook out. Take pictures next time, and I think you'll be able to do a full breakdown. That was just fine. Uh, so
Excellent.
yeah,
But
no.
Play to Win is a
Mhm,
completely different crowd. The feels are so good at Play to Win events,
mhm,
and especially if you get to Convoke events or the Cloud City Games events,
mhm,
like, everybody is just so happy to be there. And Cam and Dylan, Play to Win, they are such good people.
mhm.
Like, I just love being around them in general. They're one of the streamer, like the content creators, like they are in person absolutely what they are online, what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And so with the Play to Win event, you had a lot more fringe decks. You had a lot more people that maybe played a little differently than tournament grinders because they get into the events just, for the good times for the
Mm-hmm.
guys and everything. So that was a lot different.
As a fun anecdote about those two, I was playing against Cam at a Cloud City event, and I shut him out with like 3 stacks pieces on turn one, and he just cackled like a crazy person because the game was over on turn one, and he had a great time with it. So I very much concur with the vibes are vibing.
Yeah. And one thing that I did want to mention, I was actually Dylan played against my Magda back, I believe, at the Convoke prototype event. So the first Convoke event. And I won, I think it was turn three, like the first turn. And the same exact thing. Like Dylan was just like, explain how you did that. That was so cool. And then they talked about my deck during their breakdown of that tournament.
Cool, excellent. Um, for either of those tournaments, have you done any major changes for your deck beforehand?
So I don't change very much in my deck because it just feels good. A couple of cards as things underperform, like of course I'm gonna have to make some cuts for Lorwyn. We've got a fantastic tribal artifact coming out that guess what? It's a dwarf and it's not even a creature, so they can't even kill it. I've got to come up with a spot for that. I've got to come up with a spot for the your red spells can't be countered and all your creatures take 2 damage to target them. Lord, I love that goblin. It's definitely going in. And then I've got some other changes, but um I don't know. I things feel right with my deck just for me personally.
Okay. We talked about, we've kind of touched on the rest of these questions, but we did talk about political strategy and sitting and how it takes a little bit of finagling to not become arch enemy. I'm just kind of curious how you feel like you manage that.
Well, one reason why I do CEDH on the whole is to get a better handle on my emotions personally. Like, I do CEDH to practice my cool, like keeping my cool. So I try really hard not to get flustered, not to get salty. Um, and so when especially in those situations I'm talking about where you have a grinder and newer players and they can't necessarily or they don't trust their ability to threat assess and so you've got 3 decks against you, like the salt starts to rise.
Hmm.
And so it's really hard to explain to people like, yeah, my deck's scary, but we need to threat assess everyone right now. Like Blue Farm's a really strong deck, and if you're giving them cards for free, then they're just gonna Thoracle on you.
Hmm.
like, but I think that the best thing for politics is just say what's on your board. Don't try to defend yourself. Like, just they're gonna think what they're gonna think, and just play to that. Just be you.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. Most of this was just trying to broadly cover some tournament stuff and deck building stuff. Now we're moving on to the deck building part in proper. So full disclosure for the audience, we've talked about this before we started recording. There's a lot of differences. I think it's about 30 cards. So we thought it because for the most part, Rust and I come from a fairly similar place in terms of where we land on cards, not necessarily how we come to deck building, but where we land. I thought it behooved us to ask about like the more than just the what's, the hows and the whys when it comes to deck building. So, how do you approach? How much do you look at what everyone else is doing? What's a lot of theory crafting? Are you just following through on what feels comfortable? How do you weigh those?
So there's a bunch of things. Like as a mono red deck, people don't expect a lot of interaction from you.
Hmm.
And so I pack a lot of interaction because I don't want to lose to somebody just because somebody else didn't keep a response to them. So I play a lot of interaction. I don't play a lot of stacks because I seem to always get burned with stacks. If I'm trying to lay down, like, oh my gosh, back when I was playing Tangle Wire, the number of times when I would drop a Tangle Wire and someone would drop an Orcish Bowmaster, and I would be like, that was so pointless. Now I'm completely out and not winning this game at all. And so as time went by, I generally cut my stacks because if I'm running a silver bullet, yeah, it's going to stop that one guy, but it's not going to stop this other win out of seat 3 or whatever. So I cut pretty much all the stacks except for the best stacks, that being Portal to Phyrexia and a Godfair statue, because those are basically a board wipe on call if I need it. It's a way to get value back out of my graveyard if it's been put there. It's a way to win. And the Godfair statue, it's the same thing. If I need to, I can stop a Thoracle win because they are not going to have enough mana to get there. It's going to slow down the table so that I can get to my win. Typically, I try to have a lot of treasure generation outside of Magda. So I'm running like Knuckles the Echidna. I'm running a lot of treasure generation because I'm not guaranteed to keep Magda on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So the more I can make treasure outside of Magda, the better.
Mm-hmm.
I am aiming to get to 5 treasures by turn 4 or sooner when I mulligan. And that is because if I'm not winning at 5 treasures, I've got something that I can affect the board with. I can keep someone else from winning, or I can get back in the game when I need to.
All right, that kind of like paints a picture of like what you're looking for from like an opening hand, and uh we touched on what your role at the table was as far as like just you. It sounds like you want Magda to be the problem rather than try to control the board in a color that doesn't do that too well.
Yeah, everybody's gonna see her as the problem, so I just own it. I'm like, yep, guys, if you want to deal with this, you deal with this, and don't deal with that over there or whatever. But it's basically you just help the table to threat assess, and if they say nope, nope, you're the problem, we're going to keep you from winning at all times, then that's just the way that game's going to go. And some pods, like especially in my area, if I sit down with certain people, I know I'm not winning because they're probably not winning either, but I'm definitely not winning. And you just got to keep your positivity up because that's the deck. You are arch enemy.
We are unfortunately small but too mighty.
Indeed.
So as far as like making swaps to your deck, do you have any like do you like maintain a certain number of flex slots? Do you find that you just do like one for ones whenever like a new auto include comes out? How do you approach making changes to your deck?
Very very critically, because like I said, the deck feels so good that making any changes to it always feels like, am I making a mistake with this? Like, one thing that I know the community has actually questioned me about, and I get a little defensive of it, and I try not to because I think the community has a serious point, is my Realm Scorcher Hellkite. I love to dragon kill people. It just feels so good.
We'll
It's
get
like
there.
so thematic. Yeah. But I have actually been contemplating, taking down my favorite dragon because I can win other ways. I don't need to do that. It just feels so satisfying.
As someone who basically needs to Sharpie dies to Bowmaster on their very, very fancy Tangle Wire, you gotta kill your darlings sometimes.
Mhm.
It really sucks. Sho can attest to the amount of teeth pulling it took to get me off of like the, I'm gonna say, stacks adjacent mid range list.
Mhm.
Um, and it's hard sometimes. Sometimes you just want a version of the deck to be the best version. And you want certain cards to be best in slot and worth your time because it feels fun to use them.
Yeah, one actually that I'm considering dropping was Goblin Welder. And then in this last tournament, I got into the top 4 specifically because I had a goblin welder. And so now I don't know if I'm cutting that anymore. It's so hard because things can be such all stars under the right conditions.
It's really difficult because like you get a lot of positive feedback on things because of those situations coming up. And then you're like, cool, that situation came up. And then you don't see that situation for 3 years. And then you're like, well, was it the correct decision to keep this because it felt good that one time? Or like, do you want to be more analytical as to like the purpose of every card in the deck? So like you were saying, you like your big dragon and it's a comfort choice, and that's what I have referred to that card for so many other players is, you know, they play specific cards because it's stuff that they like and it's stuff that it's comfortable. And whether that's the quote unquote correct decision is up to the player. And even though Rust and I specifically very much will die on the hill that that card should never be in a list, just like Reckless Fireweaver, like we also don't fault players for playing it either.
Absolutely, Show. And that is one thing that I love about Magda. Whenever you see a Magda sit down, they could be running hardcore stacks, they could be running hardcore turbo, and everything in between. It's not a solved deck where it's like, this is the only version, and if you're not playing this version, then you're a trash player. No, the deck is so wide open with the flexible strategies you can use.
Oh, absolutely. Like you had Boss win that tournament at the beginning of last year on Turbo Stacks. And, for the most part, every other list for the year was mid range, minus like a couple.
Mhm.
So, there are those pilots that are really good stacks players, like Andrew Bott or um, Gustavo or Boss, and they can make that style work. But that's just like you were saying, like sometimes you just have to accept that that's not where you want to be as a player and what your strengths are. You might
Absolutely.
have, better understanding of game state where you're, packing more interaction because you feel like even though our stack interaction isn't great, the opportunities that you can use your interaction, you're very good at it and it makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that basically the CEDH community needs to really focus on is like, yes, this might be the best deck in the format, but what is my play style? What are my strengths? What deck makes me feel good? Because when you have a deck you love, you just do so much better than a deck that you begrudgingly pick up.
Right.
Even if it's
And
got
there's
such good card quality, like doesn't matter.
and regardless, like there's a post on Reddit recently talking about like deck familiarity is like really important. So like before we get to in the weeds as to like your card choices, a lot of the stuff in your list is reminiscent to like older variants of the list. So like when you're familiar with how things function, it can be very difficult to like want to change things because it's what you're comfortable with. If you're familiar with it, you don't have to think about your choices. It becomes easier for you to play because you don't have to, you're not switching decks before a tournament. You're not switching 6 or 7 cards, which change 3 of your combo lines, and then like maybe you have to put too much mental energy into maintaining your own deck rather than paying attention to the overall game and board state and all that stuff.
Exactly. And that's really important when you're playing a full tournament because you're going to be there from like 9 a.m. to midnight. That's it. And you have to be on for every game. And so by the end of the day, my brain just goes on autopilot because
Right.
I've been playing the list so much and it's like I'm exhausted. I'm running on, the last shreds of caffeine and maybe a piece of pizza for the middle of the day. And that's it. So that's something that some new players don't even consider is like it's a marathon. Tournaments are marathons.
Right.
So I guess it's time to talk about the dragon in the room.
Rope Scorcher, okay.
Or
No,
I mean,
the
there's just
overall
overall
changes.
it's
Overall differences.
so
There's a lot.
we haven't seen a big departure like this since the last time Boss took down a tournament and had like the turbo stacks list, and we were just like, but why? Uh, uh, or more how, right? We knew how he thought at the time, so it was more just like, how did this work for you? So it's 30 cards different, or 29, I think, after the Furdock.
Change eventually happens.
Yeah, I'm assuming we converge there. So we've broken these cards down based on packages and what one version of the deck has versus the other. So we're going to talk about those in short form, and I have a couple questions around each package, and we can discuss. So
Okay, I'm excited.
First of all, silver bullets. Where your gun's got one of them, and so you're running meteor sword versus the Nomicon's torpor, damping, graft cage, vexing bauble, pithing needle, disruptor flute. I mean, you're saying you're running the best ones, and I would almost agree with that. I think that it's hard, given the state of the metagame. It's hard. It's still hard not to see Graft Digger's Cage as something that's not like an all-star in certain situations. And while Meteor Sword is effective, um, um, I wonder how you deal with like the variance of having to, you know, manage your you know, a bunch of different Wincons and like value generators and whatnot without any of these tools.
That's a very good point. I mean, Meteor Sword is more of a utility piece, like an emergency button. It's basically if I go to win and there's some piece on the board that I can't win through, like let's say a blind obedience, or let's say just something oddball that's there that's stopping me, but I can still do the infinite treasures, so I have activations, then I can get that sword out to remove that piece. So it's kind of like my safety button,
Okay.
less of a stacks piece. Um, Now, as far as Digger's Cage, I've seen a lot of people run that. Yes, it can stop breach lines, and yes, it can affect the board, but it won't stop a Thorgelwin. It actually gets in the way of some of my own lines. So when I was playing games and maybe early iterations of my deck, I used to drop a Graph Digger's Cage, and then I'd be like, dang it, now I have to destroy my own piece to do the things I want to do. And that just felt so bad. And so typically somebody who's got a breach line, other decks can take care of that. There are other answers. So being a Magda, I like to stop things that I can stop, but I don't feel like I need to police. I need to be the police. I need to stop everything. Other people can deal with the breach line too. So I'm gonna politic with them to say, hey, do you have anything to deal with this? Bounces work, and a lot of blue decks run the bounces and keep the bounces for just that occurrence.
So I guess it sounds like your perspective is that defensive tutoring is for the weak.
Yes, I used to do that
Real.
all the time,
So
and
real.
I only use I don't eat uh my own board state just to keep the game going, because that's the way to lose. I only eat my board state if it's absolutely necessary, and then I will tell the table, like, I'm gonna do this. I need something from you guys because it's gonna set me back a lot. And if I don't do this, then we'll just draw here, and or we'll just let this guy go for it, you know? So those are the politics is very, very influential in my area.
All right. I guess just touching on Meteor Sword a little bit, just since you've put it in, do you find it unlocking you more often than you have to mulligan hands away from it?
Um, Honestly, it doesn't come up that much.
Right.
And the way I mulligan, it's very rare to get one of my high casting costs cards in hand. I usually go to 6 or 5 when I mulligan, and so those can be the cards that I bury.
Gotcha.
Have you ever equipped it to Magda?
No, I haven't. But it's actually a recent ad, because I have a lot of friends, and I was playing Spine of Ish, right? And
Yeah.
then one of my best friends said, "Well, have you thought about Meteor Sword?" And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "It just came out in Avatar, and it's basically the same thing." And I went, "Oh my gosh, yes," because I never use the spine's ability that when it goes to graveyard it goes back to hand. But if I have to use it, then I can sure as heck equip Magda, and then that would feel great. So I haven't had to equip Magda, but there's a lot of time. It just came out.
So I
Okay.
know you said you wanted to keep a lot of the stuff on the more positive side. However, would you like any pushback at all on things that you have as like how you approach things versus how
Absolutely.
Rust and I approach things? Okay. So,
Absolutely. I love
Well, he's roping
constructive
me into this.
criticism. It is
hey,
the
hey,
way to it's the way to build yourself as a player. So you should never seek out people that are just all affirming. You should seek out people that'll give you the hard, cold truth so that you can grow as a person and as a
Oh, that's
player.
definitely Sho.
Okay, so give it to me.
oh damn. You throwing me under the bus, huh?
I'm
I see
good,
how it
Brother,
cop.
works.
okay, so I asked him about transmutation font earlier, and he just responds with question mark clown emoji.
Okay. So you had mentioned specifically using sword to get rid of Grafdigger's Cage earlier, right? Or to get rid of a problematic thing like blind obedience, right?
Right.
My problem with cards like Spine of Isha, and like I've updated the Nomicon to like talk about some of this stuff, is that like you were saying, there's not a whole lot of situations where it's actively good. And if you're tutoring defensively to begin with, it has to be for a really good reason. So, like, if you were to compare it to Torpor Orb stops Thoracle with Thoracle on the stack, right? With
Mhm.
not the ETB, but with Thoracle on the stack, you can be like, I can get Torpor Orb, and if I have enough information from my opponents, then maybe it's worth getting, right?
Mhm.
Um, in situations like when you're fighting through blind obedience, like specifically, right? If you have the infinite treasures and you have the ability to go get Meteor Sword, there are other lines that don't require extra cards to even still find your way out of that problem.
Yeah.
Um, like Batter Golem, right?
Mhm.
So if instead of getting Meteor Sword, you go and you get Batter Golem, you're now able to make treasures still. From there, you can make a copy of Battered Golem with
Mhm.
Sculpting Steel, and then you can transition to making infinite untapped treasures through Grafdigger's Cage, or not through Grafdigger's
Absolutely.
Cage, through
Blind
Blind
obedience.
Obedience, right? So like, there are very few cards in the format that need specifically to be removed
Mhm.
at a given time for like Spine or Meteor Sword to like really do its job, that something else that doesn't solve other problems can help you with. So like Grafdigger's Cage, right? Grafdigger's Cage stops breach, right? So does God Pharaoh statue in certain situations if like your opponent doesn't have a tithe and they haven't been stacking treasures or whatever, which is very common for blue farm and stuff. But like in other situations, something like a Grafdigger's Cage allows you to buy the time that you need to win, because usually like if you take a look at the overall meta right now, there's a lot of X green, there's a lot of Thrasios, there's a lot of um breach.
Mhm.
So Grafdigger's Cage is very good into Rog Thras. Grafdigger's Cage is very good into breach decks. Grafdigger's Cage solves all of the two-field tutors, right? Now, the biggest problem with Spine when you're talking about like solving problems is it usually requires Spine plus another tutor, right? In order to do the thing. So with Grafdigger's Cage in play, you need to remove your Grafdigger's Cage and then do something else. But we have tools like Lifecraft Engine and like whatchamacallit, Liquid Metal Torque that allow us to get an artifact dwarf into play if we need to, where those two exact activations that we would have needed to begin with still get us an answer to the problem by just doing another line with cards that we're already using elsewhere. That Grafdigger's Cage solves so many problems that sometimes it's just worth the slight headache to fight through it rather than like give a game away. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a pod. Like as an example, a pod that I played in my last tournament was Kinnan, me, Rocco, and Inala, and I had turn one Grafdigger's Cage, and that set me up to win that game. And there's so many times where like basically being like, okay, green deck, you don't get to creature tutor. I don't have to worry about your Aboro Breeze Caller, or I don't have to worry about you tutoring a Grand Abolisher into play. Like that stuff can fundamentally change how opponents need to go about approaching things. Like when you were talking about how you didn't like that the fact that your opponent can just go and do a Thoracle thing instead of doing a Breach thing, right? The problem is a lot of those types of decks keep hands because they go, oh, this is a Breach hand. And when Grafdigger's Cage screws that over, they're required to then take usually 2 to 3 turns worth of setup to put themselves in a position where they can actually win with Thoracle. And at that point, you either have an answer, you have a tutor, which can put you ahead, or you have the other decks that can keep that other player in check, even with Grafdigger's Cage in play. Like, just because Cage is in play doesn't mean that like the parasitic you need to answer this thing um, doesn't exist, because Thoracle, obviously we don't really have many answers to it. And especially if we've already put something into play that screws their other Wincon, then it's just like, well, it's still up to you.
No, and that's phenomenal, and those are really good points, and that's exactly why this deck is awesome, because the people that see the strength in that do that. And then my strategy is more, I'm advancing my own wins, so I'm not keeping a hand going, okay, if they're going for this, I'm laying down this Graph Digger's Cage and that's going to give me the time. I'm keeping a hand saying, okay, this is my play here, this is what I'm going to do. And my interaction, is basically to be proactive instead of apologies, theoretical.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm dying. I'm good.
Don't worry about it.
Right. That's be a real rough end of the interview.
Yeah, that was my the Graph Digger's Cage should go in there. It's like, you've got a point. I'm dead now.
No, but like there's Russ and I were having a conversation about stacks in general earlier and yesterday and stuff, and like a lot of things like Grafdigger's Cage being a 1-drop is sort of why I think it's still powerful. If it was a 2-drop, I might not play it. Like Damping Sphere is something that even though it stops Cradle, even though it makes Storm turns like
Improbable.
more difficult for my opponent or improbable for them to navigate, like you're saying, in most of my opening hands, I want to go Dwarf Magda X, right? Or Dwarf Magda X. I don't really
and
want to do other things, right?
and I never want to play Magda turn one. That
No.
is something that I hardcore go against. But
Yeah,
but aside from that, gosh, there was a really good point that I wanted to say. For people running Tezzeret Cruel Captain, I think, and I'm specifically not running about that, and people have discussed, the advantages of putting that in just because
We'll
I'm
get
such a
there.
high. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll
what I'm
get there.
saying is, if you're running graph diggers and you're running these answers, then you're definitely on Tezzeret, Cruel Captain,
Yep.
because then you can just get them when you need them. That's
Right.
glorious.
And it
Right.
also gives you a political leverage for like resolving that card, which
Mm-hmm.
Tezzeret sometimes doesn't
Mhm.
resolve for me.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
like I was saying with like Damping Sphere, is it puts you in a very awkward position of you're like, okay, well, my turn two play is usually Magda, and now I'm playing this Damping Sphere. And unless I'm in a
Mhm.
pod specifically where this needs to be out to get me to a point where I can win, where I don't think my opponents are going to like have the answers,
Mhm.
then sure, playing it's perfectly fine. But like I've never tutored for the card in my life, and I've played it for 3 years. So like it's one of those things where like in my personal deck I'm like, okay, do I want to play this, do I not want to play this, because like what I have in the Magdanomicon isn't 100% what I personally play, right? Because
Mhm.
there are things that I don't think are necessarily the correct decision, but it is a very useful tool, and it's something that is helpful for a lot of newer pilots, which is where that list
Mhm.
sort of stems from.
And I think that's the important thing is like the cards you're playing is gonna instruct your strategy. Like if I picked up your list and you picked up mine, we couldn't play it with the same strategies. We'd have to completely adapt. And so that's one of the beautiful things about Magda is your deck customizes to the things that work for you and not
Right.
necessarily the things that work for other people.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
agree.
I mean, I definitely think that playing to your strengths is always going to be positive EV, but
Mhm.
as someone who is not the strongest pilot or the strongest brewer, I find myself a person with pet ideas often, and sometimes I need people to kill my darlings for me. 'Cause I'm not
Mhm.
willing to do so. But that is all relative to what your active goal at the table is. So, I wanted to talk about dwarves now, um, because a few are MIA, and for someone who wants to be a problem, you're missing at least three of them.
Okay, tell me my dwarfs that I'm missing.
You didn't have two one-drop dwarves,
Right.
and you're missing Blood Boiler, despite being on
Yes.
six or seven more mountains than we are.
So, Blood Boiler is something that always lurks at the back of my mind. And there have actually been games that I would have won if I ran Blood Boiler and knowing that in the back of my head. Because you basically have to have several tools, and one of the important tools to have is a tapper. And so that's definitely one that it just never makes the cut for me. The other two one drops that I cut were one ones, and I thought they're just a dwarf. Like I believe one of them that I cut is Dwarven Trader because it's literally just a 1/1 dwarf. And so I filled that with a slightly better utility card that could do other things for me other than just being a one drop dwarf, because I like to have a turn one or a turn two that's a little bit better than just a one drop dwarf.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I didn't actually understand the term better than a better turn one than a one drop dwarf. That actually didn't make sense to me specifically, because that's kind of my
Can you
ideal.
give us some examples?
Yeah. Actually,
Absolutely. So if I can get a Mishra's Workshop in my hand, then I can play a tapper, like some kind of vehicle, like a unlicensed hearse is gorgeous because if you're talking about breach strategies, guess what gets rid of that? An unlicensed hearse. There have been times when I've just had an unlicensed hearse and people can win through it. It's such a phenomenal reactive stacks piece. And it does so many things other than that. It doesn't, it shuts off like recursive lines with oh shoot, green, colorless, get a card from your
Oh,
graveyard
Nature's
back into
Rhythm
play. No, no,
or
no.
Ally Devastation.
No, they're talking about Eternal Witness.
Yes, Eternal Witness, or even like
Oh, okay,
a
okay.
potential finale of devastation if they're targeting something in their graveyard, because you don't have to get something out of your deck, you could get something out of your graveyard if they have to go under an oppo. So there's like so many things. So if I can get some kind of artifact like that's a tapping artifact, then my turn 2, if I'm playing a 1-drop dwarf, guess what? I tap that, I use the treasure to get another 1-drop dwarf, or I advance my mana to get Magda out, or I'm just trying to get those incremental things so that every turn gets me closer and closer, because like I said, I'm trying to target 5 treasures by turn 3, turn 4. So
Put in
1-drop dwarf, if I just play Mountain Dwarf pass, next turn I'm gonna have 1 treasure on turn 2. And that's a little too, that's not enough for me to actually say, okay, I'm gonna do things now. Does that make
Rust.
sense?
Yes. So, like Rust, how often do you go dwarf on turn 1?
I'm
80% of
kind
your
of
games?
in the camp that it's probably the best turn 1 we could possibly have.
Monkey.
Al-
Monkey's a better turn 1 than a 1-drop dwarf too, Ragavan, because you
There's-
get in, you
We'll
get a
get to
treasure.
monkey.
There's
But yeah,
only one monkey.
yeah, there is only one monkey. Well, no, there's 2 monkeys
Oh,
technically.
there's 2 monkeys, and one of
Okay.
them's good.
Okay, that's fair.
Changelings are all monkeys, guys. I'm running so many monkeys.
Oh my
Damn,
god.
you
It's
got
a
us there.
Oh shit, we're like one color away from Kibo. You're right.
Hey, by that logic, I'm also running dragons.
Yes, we're all running dragon. We're all running everything.
My
guys.
Noggle
Oh, no,
tribal
mine
deck
is
is
so
gonna
many
be
people.
so lit. All 2 of them.
Sorry to interrupt you. You can continue to talk about Ragavan.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to say Ragman.
So, what's the? I'm personally think that Axor Cavalry is just okay as a card, but I think Plundering is an actively good card. Despite it being kind of expensive.
That's what keeps me away from it. The 3 CMC. I like the ability, like it kind of has that that meteor sword, like when it ETBs, get rid of something. There's a lot of problematic artifacts that get in your way. And I used to run plundering, but it just sometimes it felt bad in my hand. And so I cut it.
It does refund itself as far as the mana difference. That's like the other thing about Blood Boiler is like, even when we're not on as many mountains as you, I'm okay using a treasure to cast my Blood Boiler because it just makes a treasure immediately and refunds what I have just spent to cast it, essentially making it a 2-drop dwarf.
It is also insane with Horde Master.
Oh yes, absolutely.
That
Goated.
is one of the creme de la creme of dwarven interactions, in my opinion. It's so good.
Oh
It's basically Sting.
yeah, it's basically Sting.
Yeah, and Sting is a stupidly broken card that we just will not play.
Yeah, and I tried that for a while, but it
Australia.
people just hate. They kill whatever you're putting it on. So it's like that's fair. That's fair.
Can't stop the treasure generation if it's an instant speed and not a dwarf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Poor Ira trying to play that card.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next set of cards. All right, Robo Dwarves.
Before
my deck was so controversial. This is like opening
before
my
we
eyes. It's like
before
I didn't
we
know I was
move
that
on,
different.
Okay, what's up, buddy?
before we move on, Plundering Barbarian in lists that don't run Cursed Mirror is actually a requirement if you're trying to ladder up and not use Clock of Omens as your win condition, because you can't make above a treasure threshold with Barkform Harvester to put both of your creatures back into your deck without the extra treasures that it generates when it ETBs if you have like multiple Roaming Thrones. So instead of it making 6 for just tapping, it makes 9. So like if you're not on Curse Mirror, because if you're on Curse Mirror, right, you can go Roaming Throne, Curse Mirror, your Zorn or whatever, or make another copy of Roaming Throne, and that fixes that problem.
Mhm.
So if you're on something like Curse Mirror, there's slightly more wiggle room as to like it being, I guess, quote unquote, correct to maybe not run it. But the duality of the destroy artifact, that has come up in so many games. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've used that over just getting
Make
the
a
extra
treasure.
treasure. Like
Yep.
I almost never make a treasure. It's almost like, okay, I'm killing your candelabra, or I'm taking you off blue mana, or whatever.
Yeah. In whatever way you can make the Rog Thras player cry.
Okay, you can move on now.
Okay. So another bone, or a couple actually. Um I'm perplexed. Just if you compare these two options here, Bloodline Pretender versus Torque and or Tezzeret. Because you get a 3-mana Robo Dwarf, and then you have a 3-mana Robo Dwarf, effectively. And then you have a 2-mana Robo Dwarf, kinda. Right? I
Well,
would say I guess
it's not a 3-mana Robo Dwarf for
4.
Tezzeret. It's a
Apology.
4-mana
Yeah,
Robo
you're
Dwarf.
right. You're right.
But it is also a vehicle
Yes.
and a land
Yep.
and whatever other 1-drops that you run or less.
Yeah.
So it is super flexible, right? Because like Tezzeret does read that you can untap a creature
And a
with
treasure.
his ability, right? So it's like it's so flexible.
Yeah.
Well,
But
the thing about I run a lot of straight artifact dwarfs, and that's because I don't play them until I'm gonna win. Because the second that you play an artifact dwarf, the whole table, like, that's it. You've set a fire and everybody has to kill you for it. Like, so I'm really struggling if I have to play my artifact dwarf before I am going to win, honestly. And if I have a Tezzeret and I have to, like, what you guys are saying is like a build up and then get and then go, which is the stack strategy of like, I'm holding everybody back, nobody else can win, I'm getting there, guys. And I'm building all this stuff, and you guys can't deal with it because I'm robbing you guys of all of your abilities, right? That's the strategy you guys have. My strategy is I'm not using treasures for mana. I'm just accumulating, and I'm slowly building up board state. I'm keeping reactive interaction in my hands. I'm politicking with the table, and then when they can't stop me, I drop Artifact Dwarf win. Oh no, I quieted everyone down.
No, you're
to
good.
be
I'm
no
I'm
like
trying to. So something that like Sho can back me up on this. I am very much not on the stop everyone plan.
and
In
Oh,
fact, I am. I'd be willing to say I'm more of a turbo deck at this point.
mhm.
yep.
Um,
I'd also be willing to say that my deck is more of a turbo deck as well at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, because like the other thing too, like about the robot dwarves is Sho had to basically pull teeth for me to put them in my deck because I just didn't like playing into the artifact dwarves.
Really?
And I
Wow.
still don't like playing them, but it's like I think a higher density of dwarves is just better.
Gotcha.
Um,
And
They are
specifically
dwarves
dwarves
and they fill multiple roles,
and
right?
yeah,
Like that's
good.
the thing. Like especially like when you look at like for Rust list, um, he has a higher density of colorless mana. So like having that 2-drop artifact dwarf that turns colorless mana into colored mana can make or break a game for his deck in some
uh,
Yeah.
cases.
a lot of games actually.
Right? So like um we're 100% on board with you with like the you need to just like jam an artifact dwarf when it's going to be the best for you. There are situations where like politically it's still a good decision. Like I'm going to make a treasure, I'm going to attack with this dwarf, and you can block it. And if you want to get rid of your mana dork to get rid of it, perfectly
Mhm,
fine, right? It's also a
mhm,
way to like give opponents the choice because like they don't have to remove Magda. They can remove the artifact dwarf, and it helps to protect Magda with that being out in a lot of cases, especially the X1 artifact dwarf specifically. Um,
absolutely.
so like with you wanting to be up on density, right? There's still the mana value of liquid metal torque, or the you're not playing cage, so winning through cage doesn't matter as much. Um, but it does solve that problem in a way. And with how often Magda dies, a two
Mhm.
mana rock can be make or break you casting Magda the following turn
Mm-hmm.
on a turn that it dies. And there's always,
That-
the fact that, okay, this thing needs to target something to make it into an artifact dwarf, and there's a point of
mhm.
interaction there. Um, but that point of interaction exists when you play an artifact dwarf. So Magda can die in both scenarios.
Mhm.
There's zero difference whatsoever from a
And
practical standpoint.
I have literally been in a tournament match where my liquid metal torque early game, we're talking like turn 1, turn 2 liquid metal torque got force of willed.
Yeah,
So people do see the power in that card
Oh
for
yes,
sure.
I've
people
seen
can
Clown
make
Car.
very bad. I've seen Clown Card get Force of Will too. I've seen a
Yep.
dwarf get mental missteps. Like as Magda players, you see all sorts of bad decisions. You just have to accept that someone's going to make a bad decision, whether that
Oh,
was
it's so
a,
crazy.
a
Yeah.
liquid metal torque or something else that get Force of Willed. Like whatever, man. Like you Force of Willed my vehicle. Cool.
So this is something that I want to talk about a little bit, I don't say it the same way every day, every time we talk about it, but I do. Having the political tools to undermine the bad decision making that makes you play a worse version of your deck allows you to play a better version of your deck. You know what I mean? Like you can tech for a meta without teching for I'm going to be over targeted because my opponents are unreasonable goblins, kind of thing. And I think that extends to cards like the better artifact dwarves, right? And I say better because they offer more than just winning the game. They do things. Um,
Right.
uh, but
And
realistic.
definitely
God,
like for real, if I say better or worse, that's just a subjective personal opinion in my experience. Like I
Right.
said, everybody's playing the best cards for them. Like, and that might be different than my best cards for me. So just to lay that out there that
sure.
like I don't treat my opinion as like God's truth, the absolute end all be all. I know that like I'm just a player out there at the end of the day, and I might have had some good tournaments, but at the end of the day, so much of that is luck. Like, so much.
Sho
It's
really
luck.
hates my good cards for me, so I
Fuck
get
you.
that.
Fuck you, Rust.
Yeah.
Mister
Unfortunately,
Mister, I have roaming throat in my hand 80% of my games.
Brother, just play Grim
Dude,
Monolith.
I
I
want that
swear it'll be
problem.
okay.
we have Grim Monolith in the deck right now. We're gonna.
Is it in the primer?
No, not the
No,
primer
it's
right now.
not in the primer.
It should be.
We'll find out. Do well. Win next week.
I
Just fucking clutch, my guy, and we'll put it in the primer.
I fucking went undefeated at one tournament and then top 4 at another one. What do you want from me? Or top cut.
Did we interview you for that?
No.
No.
No. Y'all should have called me.
Well, Rust is Rust. He's done it a bunch of times. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess it's like, hey, how do you approach deck building? Oh, vibes. I just whichever
Yeah.
one's my favorite color on that day.
I,
You
I am
know,
the only person that keeps Rust from just vibing his way through life with his deck at the moment, I
I,
think.
it's like some straight up Bert and Ernie shit. I love watching it.
um
You say that I've been actively making changes to my deck list this entire time.
Oh, I know. Just on
so
based on vibes, they're pretty.
like talking about moving forward with that
Yeah.
card that you were talking about before, Furdock Core,
Yeah.
is that something that you see potentially replacing a card like Bloodline Pretender, or is it something that you want in addition to Bloodline Pretender?
Oh, I've been waffling so hard, guys. And pre-release is this weekend, and I have to actually like make my decisions. I think right now, and this could change tomorrow, is I think I just want more artifact dwarfs. Like jam them all in there. I might drop a land. I've
Mhm.
really been thinking about let me just drop a land. Because
Well,
like
you're
you
on
said,
30 lands, right?
I know and I acknowledge that, but yeah. I mean I have reasons for everything, but maybe I just drop a land for it. And the goblin, maybe I drop Goblin Welder, but it really got there for me last tournament, so maybe I don't. So
Right.
it's probably gonna be a land though.
So like you were saying, sometimes having the cage or whatever does make Tezzeret good, but I think that like for what the main game plan of the deck is, having so much flexibility of this is a 3 mana vehicle. Sure, it's 1 mana off of what you would normally want it to be, but it's
Hmm.
guaranteed get Clown Car and then potentially get another tutor the next turn.
Hmm.
Because Clown Car comes in, gives him +1, and then Magda makes a treasure the following turn, or maybe even the same turn.
Hmm.
Um, but like it's really hard to wrap my head around like why a card that is so flexible and does so much is something that someone is not playing.
I'm just a trash player.
No,
No, I
don't say that.
I see you can't see that I don't want that kind of that
No,
energy. I need to
I was
know.
joking. Guys, I was joking. I was
Okay.
just trying to do it deadpan. But it's
We're
definitely
all trash.
I'm not.
we are.
We need
Anyway,
to
but
Big
rename
same.
the Dwarven Hall to like the fucking trash can,
This isn't a
I'm,
this
but
I'm
isn't a
a
the
redshift
garbage disposal.
community.
there is I was talking with friends and about the upcoming Lorwyn, and I was like, this card might make me put in Tezzeret Cruel Captain, and that's potentially like after that set drops, then I'm probably switching 4 to 5 cards, and if it works, then it works. But it's like a deck is a flexible, living, breathing thing. So
absolutely.
like people have really great suggestions, and I think that having this conversation with you guys and you guys like asking me about my choices, oh my gosh, this is making me such a better player, guys. I love it.
Yep.
The Great Hall is now the trash can, by the way.
No, don't do that. I name these things so you know how hard it is to come up with good pithy names sometimes?
It's in parentheses. It's fine. It can live there for a day.
Okay,
It
that's
won't
fine.
kill you.
That's fine. Until the,
Okay.
all right. So let's move on to the interaction. So we differ a lot, and honestly, it's more like a difference of like 9 months in some cases. Like there's some cards that like we were very high on, and some of these cards we've been playing, maybe middle of last year, a little bit earlier. And a couple of these cards go in and out and in and out. So you're on Ghostfire, Stoke, Blasphemous Act, Flare of Dupe, and Siege Smash. Whereas for us, we're on Twin Shot, Chaos Warp, Return the Favor, and Red Elemental Blast. And I just want to preface this that everyone in the room is going to look at Return the Favor with the same kind of scrutiny that or the lack thereof of that card is going to be looked at with the same kind of scrutiny as the Tezzeret. We're like I got the artist to make to sign like 40 of them because I knew that's how many I would need, at least that many to give to people. Uh because it's that good. I want to single out that card first. Why?
You want to start with that card? Okay.
Yeah. Why return the return the favor?
So refresh me on the text of Return the Favor because it's a newer card, correct?
It's Thunder
It's
From
Junction.
Thunder Junction.
Thunder
So
Junction.
it's a year old at this point.
Yeah. So
Oh gosh.
it's red red.
Yes.
It's got spree, which means you can add multiple effects on after the fact. So it's red base, and then you got one effect, which is copy target instant spell, sorcery spell, activated ability or triggered ability. And the other 1 mana spree ability you can add on is change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. So it is both a twin cast for abilities as well, and a SWAT on the same card.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
it's not in there because of the casting cost of 3. Where I'm going, I typically don't have 3 mana up and can't get there. And like I said, I don't want to eat treasures, so that's why it didn't make it. Now, as for Stoke the Flames, that's coming out. Like, that's one of the spots that's coming out for Lorwyn, and I know it is.
Cool.
Because there's been times when I have wanted to use that spell and just didn't have enough of a board state to get there. So I can guarantee you my next version of the list will not have Stoke in it.
I guess we'll go down the list of cards that you have included that I find
Sure.
like a little curious. Siege Smash is in that silver bullet realm for me.
You
It's
think
there because you're
so?
dealing with a particular flavor of Wincon, or like a degenerate value piece. Like, I want to say Sho originally included it because he was seeing so much Kinnan that it was making his eyes bleed.
Be in Kinnan country, bro.
Well, you are in Kinnan country. That is for sure. Them Bonders hunting your ass.
There's a lot less Kinnan, to be fair, nowadays. But
Mhm.
Siege Smash in specific, uh, the fact that it was split second and they couldn't do anything about, me getting rid of their basalt monolith was one of the main reasons. But they're just outside of Kinnan and outside of like Candelabra, there's not a lot of artifacts where you just want them gone. So it puts you in a position where like that second mode almost never exists in most like games. However, the first mode just reads save Magda from Bowmasters, which is appealing, but like again, this card came out over a year ago at this point.
Mhm.
And I played it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was Rust can attest to me being,
I
hemming
think
and
I've
hawing
passed.
over taking the card out of the Magdanomicon because I was like, this thing is super powerful, but like I haven't missed it, unfortunately.
Me neither. Mainly because like I don't know. I just don't think Kinnan is a matchup that we particularly have trouble into. At least not for myself.
I think
But also like
that's
the
that's a you
the
thing.
the +3/+2 mode on it. I think I cast that maybe once. Like that is the most irrelevant line of text on a Magic card I think I've ever had.
can
Yeah, I kind of agree with you.
can I
The
put a little bit? Oh, go ahead, please. But I can hold my thought.
so basically it's in for null rods. I hate null rods. And I was seeing like a high intensity of null rods for a while. Or hold on. No, Curse Totem. Sorry,
First
I
totem.
said the wrong thing. Curse
Yes.
Totem. I don't really care about null rods, but I have gotten killed for playing a null rod back in the day. And Atali got really, really mad that they couldn't do Atali things, and I got destroyed. But so that's just in there for Curse Totem and other artifacts that just shut me out.
I can see it if you have a meta where like 20+% of players are playing um Curse Totem, but like the amount of decks that actively play that right now are like defensive blue farm lists, um, maybe some Tivets, maybe some like Shurikai. Like it's not super popular at the moment.
Yep.
Um, and
And
a
that
lot of the
might be
decks
a
that
good that might be a good card to cut for the Lorwyn, fire that's coming out too.
the Lorwyn what?
The
The
Lorwyn
Fire
fire,
Dock.
like the Furdock, the
Oh,
Goblin, the spots that I'm trying to find. You guys make
yeah, yeah.
excellent points.
Um, but yeah, I like There's just not enough decks that run that at the moment, and it is really good answer to like Hullbreaker Horror Loops. It's a good answer to Kinnan stuff and to Candelabra, but like I don't think having a answer for those things specifically that you can't tutor is really a great deck choice at this particular moment with how the meta is going.
So one thing that I actually really do like about it though is A, it's got split second, and B, if I'm going to win and somebody goes, okay, if this is an easy win to stop, I'm just gonna kill Magda with a damage spell, that it can sometimes save Magda, and that's all I need to get to the win. So it's 2 CMC, it can't be countered, split second on the stack, and yes, it protect Magda from X Bowmaster, but sometimes that's all you need to win the pod.
Sometimes, definitely.
All this stuff, like Magda is so situational, like absolutely. And you just have to play the probability of the situations that you're going to run into that are likely. And so
Right.
that's where I usually am is, turn 3, turn 4, I'm going for the win. And then they go to kill Magda. Can I stop it? If I can stop it, then I'll win. But if I can't stop it, then it'll go around again.
Right.
So just a thought. Someone's forcing you, or someone is like trying to interact with your win, especially with like a damage spell on the stack.
Mhm.
Return the favors there, and it can also get you an extra activation on the stack. And I wanted to
But
push back on the 3 mana thing. You are running
yeah,
Dualcaster Mage.
I am, because that's a Wincon too. A really, really rare, like,
Right.
I probably count the number of times on one hand, but it's also like it's not as so return the favor is copy an instant or sorcery.
No,
Is that the
it
twist
Or
on it?
activated
or
ability
triggered.
or triggered ability. So you can also like
Mhm.
Atali comes in, you're like, this card's sitting in my hand. Let me copy your Atali trigger, just for fun.
Or or I I'm not gonna activate Magda and push for a win. No, you're not. I'm gonna bolt Magda. Actually, I'm gonna copy my Magda activation on top of that. Let's continue this, and then you win on
Yeah.
top of the interaction. That is like the default use case of Return the Favor, in my opinion.
I've also just used it as 3 mana make a treasure.
It literally can be 3 mana make a treasure. So on top of interaction, even to get you if they're responding to a treasure make trigger that is the game, right? And they're like, I got you right here, and you're like, no, you don't, because I can make the
That's
treasure.
actually beautiful. That's like chef's kiss perfect. You
I
are talking man to this card. The more you talk, the more I'm like, yeah, this could be in my list.
like,
So like but sorry to
God,
cut you off, Drew. But
you're
the other
fine.
thing is like a majority of the things that stop us, right? It's you're going to run into swords to plowshares. You're going to run into lightning bolts specifically in
Mhm.
our own deck and some Rogthrast decks. You're going to run into
Flood wall.
abrupt decay or I'll get there.
Okay.
Abrupt decay or whatever from some
Mhm.
Sisay, some sort of Golgari stuff. But for the most part, it's going to be bounce spells. It's going to either
Mhm.
be like a Chain of Vapor or it's going to be a Flood Maw. And that's usually the most common way for me to have my win stopped. Um, which is why like Red Blast and Pyroblast are both in at the moment, is because just the blue decks pack specifically bounce spells and swords to plowshares for the most part.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm okay with if they swords Magda, like that's one out, but my other interaction should deal with the bounce spells.
Very
It's
persuasive.
it's such a good card. Like I could like you could do an entire episode of this style of conversation just on the intricacies and use cases of Return the Favor. It is Flare of Dupe and a bag of chips kind of card without having to
Mhm.
sacrifice a dwarf. It's just
So
it
I
is
want Rust to ask about Blasphemous Act because he recently cut it,
yeah
and it's a card that he's played for like 2.5 years.
yeah.
Okay,
What's
okay, hold on. So I like to start off with Any gamer who puts a blasphemous act in their deck is a friend of mine. Okay, fuck these dwarves. This board needs a reset. I'm rebuilding faster than you, or this game's just a draw. I don't give a fuck. Get all the creatures out of here. Fuck that shit.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. If I could tell you guys the number of times, like, it's really just flattened someone who is going to win. Like, there's a lot of Thras decks that go Gaia's Cradle. So there's Dog Thras, there's Rog Thras, there's like all of them, and they all just want all these creatures in a cradle. And you know what makes them cry? Blasphemous Act, because they just
I
can't
cannot
come
tell you
back.
the amount of times that a one mana board wipe saved my ass. Like, it happens actually pretty often. I think I ended up cutting it mainly because, like, as the deck started going more turbo, I was like, well, I'm either winning the game or I'm not winning the game. I might as well just cut this card for something that is probably going to win me the game.
I would argue Blast Act does, because sometimes I get a slow start and everybody's just like vomiting on their board states. Like there's just creatures everywhere, and I've got like maybe one pip dwarf, and I'm like, you know what this board needs? A Blasphemous Act, and then I just come
So
right back after it.
my list is kind of built in a way where I don't want to say consistently, but like Sho, for the tournament recaps that I sent you, a majority of my games ended on turn 2.
Wow.
Turn
Oh,
turn
that's
two,
so impressive.
turn 2, turn 3.
Right. So it's like a majority of the time I'm taking mulligans to not ever see a turn 4.
Sometimes I take mulligans just to keep that Blasphemous Act, guys. Like, I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of in my meta, some games you sit down at a pod and you're just like, if I go for it fast, I'm just not getting there. Like, I got 2 blue forms. I'm just not getting there. So I'm
Well, I
just gonna
mean,
keep
there
this
were
Blasphemous
even
Act.
some games that I was playing where I had a turn 2 win, but I never got a turn 2.
Oh wow.
So it's like I was like, I think that it kind of depends on how the rest of the deck is built. So like, I know a lot of people look at Blasphemous Act and they, see the card and they're like, "Oh, it kills all of our dwarves. Why would I play that?" And I look at it and I'm like, this person knows what's up. They know some real sauce.
It's a good
So like,
card, especially if your beta has a lot of Thras X decks.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's definitely good and meta dependent for sure.
Yeah,
The
and
card
that's one thing that I want to stress is like you got to feel out your meta. You got to know your meta. Because one deck does better in one meta, it might not necessarily do well in a different meta.
So,
Right.
with that in mind, I'm curious. Is what's your primary target in for cards like Stoke the Flames and Ghostfire Slice? I know Stoke is more of a I'm cutting it because I can never cast it for what I want to cast it for. But for Ghostfire, I mean they're both doing the same amount of damage roughly. So I
Ghostfire has literally won me games. Like people have nosed and then gone too low, and then I just go, "Yep, you're dead." Nobody expects 4 damage out of nowhere.
okay.
And I know that's kind of silver bullet, but it's literally come into play way more than you think it would. And a lot of things, it's just creature removal too. It does so much. And 9 times out of 10, it's 1 mana to cast because somebody's got their commander out and everybody's got Thrasioses. So
Yeah.
and it
I
kills Thrasios.
actually cut Ghostfire because it kept not being on.
really, it's always on in my meta. Always.
Sho, do
The
you want to
card
talk?
I want to
Yeah.
spearhead
No, I was
is
gonna pass the mic to you, buddy.
Twin Shot Sniper.
Yes.
Please explain to me why one of our best removal pieces is not there.
You
Okay,
mean Blasphemous Act is right there?
this is gonna sound really, really petty. Italy killed my dwarfs with it. I got shut off because of my own twin shot sniper, and I was like, you know what? I'm just cutting this for a while because I have other things to do. So it probably literally needs to go back in, and I need to get over that because you know how many times I've been board wiped with my own dwarf? Like, what is it, Bloodfire Dwarf? You spend a reg and
Yeah.
sack. I have been Mockingbird, Bloodfire Dwarf, kill all your dwarfs. Oh my god, like I'm literally.
That's
It's
I
like
love it.
multiple pods, guys, multiple pods. Like Atali
I
did it to me this last tournament, and I was just like, that's what I lost in the top four. Like I literally could have come back, but Atali got my flip and said, "Okay, I'm just killing all your dwarfs," and I'm like,
So I have not been
"Oh,
mockingbirded, but I have been Emmercold, and then they controlled me to do it themselves.
That's so funny.
see,
That's funny.
Yeah,
like literally, guys."
that sucks so bad.
Was that a Lumra?
So
No, it was TNT.
Okay.
like just especially when you start thinking about win lines and all that shenanigans, like twin shot sniper is part of so many of them
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
like it also just even though the Itali thing is a real feels bad, right? But obviously that's gonna be
I
few and
told you I
far
was petty.
between.
No, it's
Yeah, I
true.
know. But yeah, I mean, like, especially as the deck, or at least the way that some of us are building it, gets leaner, like having something that is so flexible um, is super important. And the fact that it can't be countered other than with like stifle or those type of effects is chef's kiss usually.
Yep.
Like opposition agent doesn't matter. I played against my friend who plays Winota, and you know, you end up with the stupid bird that stops you from searching your library, and you're just like, well, this thing's dead. Um, I don't know.
Is it
The
No, absolutely. And probably when I cut Rum Scorcher Hellkite, that's what's going in. Because every time I watch
when?
gameplay online, there's what?
Sorry, I got excited.
Okay.
he
Uh
heard the word
I
when, and he's like,
know
oh,
you guys are convincing me. I was leaning that way ever since. Like my deck list is actually unlisted on Moxfield, so people get that from tournaments and go directly to get it just because I'm shy and I feel bad and I have thin skin. So if the internet starts making fun of me, I literally will cry. But somebody found my deck and like the one comment that I have on that is like, "Why the dragon?" And ever since I read that comment, I'm like, "Are they right? They're probably right."
I
I
think
love
I
my dragon.
brought
Oh.
I think I
you
found
brought
that
that up last
comment
night.
the other day,
Yep,
and I brought it up to Sho.
yep. We were like, how do we approach this really nicely? And Russ was just like, so I was on her Moxfield, and the one comment on there is asking why she's playing Hellkite, and I was just like, oh, okay.
I know, guys. I
A-
know.
And
And I love it when people like literally ask me why and get me to think about things. And you guys have been so positive with your questions. And honestly, this whole podcast, like, my deck's gonna be so much better after I actually think about all these things.
we're not even done yet.
We're not even done yet.
Now I'm just looking to
Okay.
see what I can put Blasphemous Act back in for.
Oh my god.
Okay,
The
next page. Quick, quick, quick.
yes, let's who has the neuralizer? Click. Um so uh some mana generation guys. And a couple of these are going to be less controversial. Let's talk about the includes first. We have Mishra's, Simeon, and Ragavan. And full disclosure, on Sho and I are both on it right now.
Simeon.
Yeah, Simeon.
Mhm.
But I guess I'm curious if you're not trying to, I guess, go even on tempo when developing dwarves and a disruptive piece. I'm curious about Workshop's place. Like, what's the how do you usually use it?
I touched point on this a little earlier. Is typically it's to get out a vehicle. early, really
Okay.
early. And there's just such a high density of artifacts in my deck that it usually feels really good more than it feels really bad. I have had some matches that I couldn't get out Magda when I wanted to just because of that Mishras, but on the whole, it just really feels good.
Sure.
And since I'm not prioritizing building the dwarf army, I'm prioritizing building my pieces. Um, I don't really need a high volume of dwarfs to get on my game plan.
So, counterpoint is if you're saying that a majority of the time you're looking to push win turn 3, turn 4,
Mhm.
how consistent is Mishra's workshop, like as a turn 1 play, like you're saying, going to actually get you there? Because this is a conversation that Drew and I had when we were playing the card, is that we felt that it was more akin to a ritual. So it was like a spell slot. And
Mhm.
usually when it came in as like our third land after we've established a dwarf and Magda or whatever, and then could then establish whatever we wanted for our artifacts, that it was usually playing better that way, which is Boss originally was playing City of Traders. So from that sort of a mentality of, this is my turn 3 land in a lot of cases, as far as getting the most value from it, we started looking at City of Traders because if this is our turn 3 land, it's 4 mana, period, instead of just, you know, or on the board versus 2 mana and then 3 for artifacts. And a majority of the things that are like vehicles and stuff are 2 drops, so it still leaves you with 2 mana open to do whatever you want.
Dwarven
And you're not
things.
on a very and you're not on a very high density of 3 drops to begin with. um so it's just something to think about as far as like a 1-for-1 swap potentially, as far as like what it can do for you.
I just want to
Um,
tack on there. As someone who
sure.
was a shop enjoyer for a really long time, both in the mid range and in like the stacks turbo variants, when I made the switch to City of Traders, I haven't really looked back.
Nice. I'll definitely consider that.
Um,
Because
so
that's the thing.
mhm.
Between tournaments, I'll go 2 to 3 tournaments keeping my same list, and then I might swap in or out 1 to 2 cards just to see, how they feel if I happen upon them. And so those are the kind of real world playtest changes that are great to just check out.
When Boss originally was talking about City of Traders, I pushed back against it a little bit, um,
I did
because I
too.
didn't, and Russ did too. If like he's a recent convert, um, where like I was just like, oh, if I play this on turn 1, it's like okay, it doesn't do anything for me. Or if I play this on turn 2, it doesn't really do much for me. But like in those situations where you can get away with playing with 3 mana until Magda needs to be recast, like it's perfectly fine to not be building your board state mana base wise. It still gives that impression of I have interaction in a lot of cases, which can make players think more before taking certain actions, especially
Mhm.
creature based actions. Um, it's just like an aside that doesn't really, it's something that's not super relevant, but at the same time also can come up as far as like when your opponents end up mind gaming themselves into thinking that there's an answer there might not be, because you're literally just holding an extra land in your hand. But like being able to play Zorn or Roaming Throne that much earlier, more consistently, like yeah, Roaming Throne can be cast with Mishras, right? But like
Mhm.
Zorn can't, Professional Facebreaker can't, Knuckles can't be.
Mhm.
Go go.
There's a lot of thing. Yeah, Go-Go. Like Go-Go is
Mhm.
probably the game
Absolute
that the
fire.
card that has won me the most games since its release.
Hmm.
It's
Mhm.
insane. And being able to go like turn 1 land dwarf, turn 2 Magda, and like a vehicle or whatever, and then turn 3 City of Traders Go-Go, win the game. Like that's a very common play pattern when I end up having him, whether it's fast mana or City of Traders or whatever.
And then most of the time, it's just worth using your treasures to cast a go-go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Because you're gonna
absolutely.
be yeah.
Yep, agreed. So that's some food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then
There's a
now let's talk about Monkey.
Ragavan or
Okay.
Simeon.
Ragavan.
Okay, so
Because
there's two things I want to talk about here. So you go first.
I want to talk about Ragavan because you're off of the 2 1-drop dwarves, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're talking about the usefulness of Ragavan. As a turn 1 play, Ragavan's not making you a treasure until turn 2, right?
Are you done? Oh my goodness, still.
Which is
Sorry
the
about
same.
that.
Don't worry about it. Which is
All
the
good.
same as a dwarf. So if you're not in a position where you specifically like know that you're not going to get in or whatever, or your opponent doesn't want to lose a card, like since you're not on a lot of 3-drops and you're actively saying that you don't use treasures to cast spells or creatures or whatever very often, like what is Ragavan doing for you that one of those 1-drops doesn't, because it's also an X1?
So it's really, really good in early game, which is when I try to prioritize it. It's definitely going to feel bad if I draw that mid game or late game, like a dead draw. But if I have that in an opening mulligan, then it might get me more mana ramp off of somebody else's deck. It will net me a treasure whether or not I cast Magda. It's just like I said, and as sad as it sounds, is a lot of this stuff is just the way it feels in tournaments and whether it's
Oh, of course.
overperforming or underperforming. And typically I've noticed that Ragavan overperforms.
Is it ever getting you things that you're actively casting? Is
Yes.
like the next question. So
Yes.
can you give some examples?
It can get free mana. So a lot of times if it gets a soul ring, then I can cast that right away. If it gets like a Mox Amber, I can cast that right away. Whatever it gets is, if it's netting me up on board state or getting me net neutral, that's fine. Like occasionally it's just straight up exiled their win cons. And I know that's just luck of the draw. It's not like I'm running this to exile their win cons, but it's
I've
just
never had clock exiled by it. Nope, not me. Nope, never.
Never.
oh my god, that would be horrible. But we have other lines. That's the beauty. Is like, oh yeah, guys, you got clock. I can't win now. So
I love like when I have clock in hand and I show it to people, and I'm like, I can't win the game. There's 3 blue players here. Someone's gonna counter this, and they're like, okay, cool. I'll let you do whatever that thing is, and then I go to my next turn, and then I just cast it, and no
Mhm.
one has a counter, and then you just win, and you're just like,
literally,
okay.
Yeah, that happens a
guys,
lot.
when I was at that Cloud City tournament, I top decked clock and I went to cast it and they counterspelled it. And I was like, that's fine, guys, pass turn. And I had Goblin Welder on board. And they didn't see that. And then the next player went to win, and there was this whole interaction fight. And
Mhm.
they went to keep going on their win. Nobody had anything. And then I just won on the stack because nobody remembered my Goblin Welder and the fact that I just failed at casting clock.
That's rough.
It was
That's
it
just
was really something. Like it was really something, and that's never gonna happen. But when it does, when Christmas Land happens, oh my god, chef's kiss.
it's very much a guess I'll die. Um, so the other thing I wanted to mention about Ragavan is so all cards on the table. We think that your evaluation of like how often, what percentage of the time, both he's coming up, he's being relevant, he's getting through, and he is operating at a higher at a higher utility than a dwarf of the same mana value is
Mhm.
we differ in that. But something else that we find interesting about the choice to run Ragavan is that you're not running the toy that makes Ragavan better and playable in the mid game, and that's Relic of Legends. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
I want to talk about why we think Relic of Legends feels so good. and it's a part of the reason it's for the same reason you seem to sandbag your robo dwarfs, and it's because we know Magda's gonna die on cast of robo dwarves pretty regularly, and we want to have a way around that. and for our from to our or our reasoning is that, cards like Relic of Legend, Furdock, Torque, all these cards feel very good at, making that a momentary speed bump instead of a shit, I'm in draw go until I get a land. And not on top of the fact that, it's a tapper, it taps your Ragavan. So I'm curious why you or have you considered the card before rather than assuming.
Yes, I have. And the reason why I'm not running it is it's a tapper for legendaries, and I don't perceive my concentration of legendaries to be sufficient for a 3-drop mana rock. But I haven't literally run the statistics to see. It's just that's what my gut says.
Rust and I, when it was first brought up by another pilot, I forget who it was. I want to say it was Andrew Bot.
That does sound right.
It was
we
Andrew or
we were both
sunglasses.
We were
yeah,
both pretty dismissive of it.
Yeah.
we were both very dismissive of it, and we felt the same way of we don't have enough legends. This isn't gonna feel good. And then I played it, and then I just had Magda in play, and it was like, oh, this is a treasure and a mana every turn.
Two
Yeah,
mana.
Yeah,
it is crazy how just the card is worth it just with the commander alone
Yeah.
in most of the games that I find.
With Magda out, it's a build your own red City of Traders.
Soul Ring. Yeah,
I mean, because
or
like,
Soul Ring.
Yeah.
so Sho at the time, and I think up until recently was still playing Ghibli and Gloin, and I hadn't been playing those cards in a long time. So essentially, the legends that are in my deck currently are our commander, Boardmaster, and then Go-Go and Knuckles, which I'm probably not tapping for red.
Right.
So like, I
I'm
definitely
definitely
don't have
not
the
tapping Gimli either, if I can help it, right?
Yeah.
right, but like, there's really not a density to warrant it. But like, man, that card has just been kind of surprisingly good.
I was not sure that it would ever pass Rust's vibe check, since he is very much similarly a vibes based player. And when it did, I was like, maybe this card actually has legs.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things you have to see to believe. I recommend giving it a go and just seeing how fluid your mana curve and how explosive it feels like it becomes once you get it on the board. I would consider trying out traders and legends for that reason alone, because they don't look like they're going to transform the way you transition from establishing into mid game, but they both really really do.
And
It's also
actually
really
taking
cool,
notes as we talk, and so I've got that down as things to consider. Definitely
e-
good points.
especially if you're on like Mishra's Workshop. Like, it's really funny to go Mishra's Workshop, a Relic of Legends, and then you go land Magda, make a treasure like immediately. It still feels pretty good.
That's a good reason to run it. I still would favor
That
city
sounds
over,
phenomenal.
but yeah, no, that's some, and that's not like a crazy thing either. That happens probably once out of like every 20 games, right? That you get a hand with both in there.
So before we
Mhm.
continue, like talking about differences in their deck, I actually want to ask how you test cards. Like when you're putting a new card in your deck, let's just say you're not going to a tournament and you need to like test it yourself. Are you testing it in games or do you do mulligan testing for cards?
Honestly, what I typically do is I'll goldfish my hands, but I don't run a lot of games outside of tournaments. So a lot of times I'll just think about it, think about the probabilities, do some goldfishing, and then just go straight into a tournament.
That's I am very similar. A lot of the people that I played CDH with recently, or at least in my direct vicinity, don't play that much. And sometimes, like, if I want to go play CDH on a Wednesday or a Friday or something, I'm leaving work at 5. I'm not getting there till 7, and they close at 10. And then I have an hour drive home. So it's like sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. Like if I'm tournament prepping, maybe I'll go up once or twice. But for the most part, I am the same way where it's just straight into a tournament, right? And I've found that specifically when trying to get a grasp for how good a card can be, it's forcing it into your your opening hand. So usually I will take the rightmost card that I drew, put it on the bottom of my library, and then pretend that the card that is, or just like have it out in person or whatever. Um, that this is my card. So I try to see how it impacts my opening hand, and then I'll also intentionally make it my first or second draw to see how that impacts how good it is. Because as Magda, we don't have card draw, right? So we're usually only going 4 or 5 cards deep unless we have the One Ring in play or something. So like it's relatively easy for us to figure out compared to other decks how strong a card actively is for us in our game plan compared to a lot of other decks when you like test this way. So if you don't test in that way, it's something I would suggest. Um, Especially if there's like something that you're like, I really don't know if this is any good, and this is like a way that you can do it. We'll talk
Oh,
about that with Guild Artisan in a little bit.
that is a phenomenal strategy. I've never thought to do that. So I'm definitely gonna start doing that. That's awesome. And one thing I do want to plug, there are some amazing discords out there. Like aside from the Magda server specifically, where you kind of know what you're getting. In my area, there's New Jersey CEDH and the Philly CEDH Discord. There's also Sleeves and Dweebs. So definitely get out there on other discords and pick up some spell table games and to get your play testing on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Especially, you got Critical EDH
I was
League
gonna check them
that
out.
has
Yeah.
that has a lot of high level players in it. Like, you'll see Max P, you'll see the Doan brothers, you'll see, you know, a lot of these top players from around the country all playing games. And it's like, okay, I can either go watch them play and figure out like how this player politics and all that stuff to like also improve my game in other ways, or just being able to jam games with a higher level of player in some cases because sometimes you need that to like get past some of the hurdles that you might have as a player.
Yep.
And I do want to also plug the videos that the Magda server comes out with that show you how to run through different combo lines, like the Rube Goldberg strategy, which is another thing of why I never want to cut Spine of Ish, because I'm like, well, it does these funky things if you need it to do funky things. But I loved that series, and I'm so glad that the server puts out content like that that's so helpful.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
try
show.
to whenever I find something new, make a video about it, even if it's some crackhead thing that Rust comes up with, like
the
Forbidden
the
Orchard.
vibes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, don't you dare tarnish the good name of my Forbidden Orchard.
um,
Non-tournament legal strategy right there. Love it.
it's
I will
it's
smite thee. Quick,
it's
how do
tech
I kick Sho from the call?
it's technically tournament legal according to Rust and his judge friends. So
Okay.
we'll we'll that is what it is. But yeah, I try to do my best as far as that goes. I try to um put those out so that it gives people an understanding of like I really hate to continually go back to your dragon, but like okay, this line is only possible with these cards and in this situation, and like these are all other cards that I'm already running, like maybe you know this is something that is worth learning. And that's all that they're for, is to like teach everyone all the new stuff, because if someone doesn't make the informational thing for people, they're not everyone's going to go and read through my primer every time I add something new. So it's nice to have a place that I can just throw new combo lines or whatever And if people want to watch it and learn, they can.
And I just want to say, the crazy thing about that content is that you're now part of it. So I want to thank you for paying it forward.
Exactly.
Um,
Oh, well, I really love the community. Like, just on a personal note, like my social life, it's so positive and healthy because of the Magic community, and I love you guys so much.
oh, we appreciate it. It's been really great getting to talk to you, and I hope we get to do so in the future. Don't be a stranger on Dwarf Day soon, TM.
Okay. Next slide. Next
Yeah,
slide.
next slide. Yeah. Okay, so
Oh,
we
I
got
thought you were wrapping up.
no. We have
Okay.
two more slides, but
No, I interrupted and went on 2 different tangents. I
it's okay.
apologize.
It's okay, buddy. All right. There's a couple of bones, but like there's some. Let's talk. Let's start with Arena of Glory. Um,
Okay.
how effective is it at doing the 1-2 combo of getting you a Magda dwarf with haste? And conversely, how often is it just getting a non-summoning like Magda back out there after a removal? Like, what's your use case, and how often is it even doing that?
Well, that's typically why I run a higher mountain count
Mhm.
because I typically like having access to the pips. So my base case is it's just, well, no, I guess the bottom case is it's a tap land, which happens occasionally and always feels bad. But my mid case is it's just a mountain, and that's fine. And then my high level, my ceiling is I get to give something haste, which it's not typically going to be used for the Magda haste or the Magda dwarf haste. It's more like for a face breaker or some kind of real value engine. I love to have a hasty face breaker. People don't see that coming, and it usually nets you like multiple treasures.
That's a fair point.
Even not giving it haste, just even though Knuckles has haste, getting it out a turn early, sometimes can matter.
Absolutely. So that's one of those. I'm not specifically. It might be nice, it might be base, it might be worse, but typically it's staying in there for now. I don't feel strongly about it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Okay.
Um, how effective have you found like Plaza of Heroes? Um, like, is the 4 mana hexproof and indestructible like coming in clutch? Is it threatening it? Has that been valuable?
That's literally one make games. Yes. Because if I roll into a turn and there's a potential at pushing for a win and people see that Plaza of Heroes, then sometimes they just won't even react to me because they know they need 2 points of interaction. And they usually can't get there, honestly.
So my question there is, okay, so it gives Magda hexproof and indestructible. What's to stop them from hitting the Robo Dwarf instead?
They can. The thing about Magda and the way I build my Magda is it's got flexibility. Like I could use it for that or I could not use it for that. This card in my hand, it would be clutch in this situation, but it's just as effective and useful in a different situation. So a lot of my cards on their face aren't fire, but if you use them at the right point, at the right in the right way, they matter. And that's one of the things I said at the beginning of the podcast is like you have to be able to do more than they think you can do. All of that factors into it because these cards on their own, you might look through the list and go, a better card could go here. And some of that's on purpose because if a better card goes there, then guess what? I'm the absolute hands down threat and I'm going to be shut out completely. But if people go, yeah, they have to play 4 mana to do that, then they're going to undervalue it. And then I have more of a chance to actually pressure for a win.
It also, Drew, like the important part about it is it gives hexproof on the stack. So like
Mhm.
if the player makes a mistake and doesn't target the Robo Dwarf, or let's be honest, a majority of the play patterns for this deck go Tutor Roaming Throne, and they don't have the mana to pay the ward. So they're going to target Magda because that's the interaction point that they can have
Sure.
in a lot of cases.
And she
So,
dies to a stiff breeze.
right.
Yeah.
And then, having hexproof can help with that
Yeah.
Yeah, and
since you can do it on the
it's
stack.
more of it, and the win that I got at Mulligans Games was because they didn't assess my board state correctly because I had been, putting out these things, and that's an easy one to miss, Plaza of Heroes, honestly, unless they're really good players and really focusing on absolutely every piece.
All right. I guess my last question about your like utility land includes is the mycosynth. Um, we typically see it in conjunction with the thorn and sphere effects, and you're bereft of most silver bullets that might benefit from doubling up. So, is it rocks, an extra robo dwarf?
Honestly, I usually never use it for its ability. I've considered cutting it, but what I keep it in there for and why I always hesitate to cut it is A, it could be another roaming throne if I need that, and B, it could be another I believe it could be another treasure, but I'm not sure
So
about that one.
Non-token.
I yeah,
if,
but those are fringe situations, and so it's in there for the potential to need it in an awkward situation just to get over that last hurdle to get a win.
so it can become a roaming throne. However, it has the same problem that Mirror of the Forebears had, where it becomes a roaming throne, but it has not entered the battlefield. So you don't,
Ah,
it's not a dwarf.
gotcha.
So
Well,
if that's
see,
one of the, if that's one of like the
that's the
ceilings
issue.
that you're thinking about, then it's definitely something that could be cut.
Yeah, definitely.
And given that it shares the same first like two activated abilities as Talon Gates, just saying. Um,
Talon Gates is a based card.
yeah, it is entirely too good. Let's like rapid fire these show about the missing utility cards in from the Nomicon.
I'm going to start with MDFCs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they came in as tapped. And honestly, yes, they're extra spells, but the amount of times that I actually needed those extra spells because they're actually pretty mid for me, I just cut them for mountains because honestly, I I wanted to keep the life, I wanted to keep the, you know, and I haven't looked back. I haven't regretted it.
The only one, like, if you're on Chrome Mox, the taking 3 damage once per game or whatever, on average, from having 4 of them, um,
3.
it's not it's not usually 3 damage. It's not usually going to kill you, right? But
No,
the
he's
important,
saying that there's only 3 of them that enter untapped.
yeah, but the important part specifically is uh, the one MDFC that can win you the game under the correct circumstances, or as a backup combo line.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other than that, there's Talon Gates, which we all know is good. The amount of times where I've had it in hand and someone's like, "Oh, collector oof," and that stops my win, and I'm just like, "Okay, well, Talon Gates from hand on my next turn, and then I win." Or there's an opposition agent in play, and I have some mana up, and I can, get rid of it. Or it has not as often, I think 3 times total, saved us from losing the game with a Grand Abolisher in play.
I've definitely done that before.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
never even thought about Talon Gates. I've seen lots of people play it, and it is a gas card, and I'm totally going to consider that for the next iteration of the deck.
and if you are going on Tezzeret, and also just in general, having you're not on Grafdigger's Cage, so it's not as important. But there are some situations when you're fighting through like your own Grafdigger's Cage or someone else's Grafdigger's Cage, where you're doing like a draw loop with the One Ring, and you need specific mana to be able to cast the spells that you're going to draw to get rid of the cage. So like the artifact lands, whether that's Treasure Vault or Great Furnace, help a lot with that.
Mhm.
And the fact that it's a land that helps with protecting your clock line is also something that a lot of people don't see when you're thinking about stuff like Plaza of Heroes. Um, and especially if you're going up Tezzeret, there's a lot of times where like people are like, Tezzeret can't resolve. So I'm like, okay, I'll go and get a land with it, and then you can kill it. Like, do whatever you want, but like, don't waste a counterspell that can be used on stopping a win when we can just talk about what I'm gonna get instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just the other two lands are things that commit crimes. They don't come up super often, obviously, but like you're saying, the times where like your Goblin Welder is doing the thing, like sometimes all it takes is that one extra treasure to win you the game, and these
Mm-hmm.
lands can get you there sometimes. But if you really like that's kind of why we started with talking about Arena of Glory, is because if you really like Arena of Glory and what it provides, then maybe running these other things doesn't it isn't for you. But
Mm-hmm.
if Arena of Glory is something that you're kind of mid on, which is what you said, then the total sum of the value of the rest of the things that you could be playing instead of, Arena and some of the mountains might over time net you more positives than negatives.
Mopal,
Mm-hmm. For
m-
sure.
Mopal plus
Mo-
any of the MDFCs alone, I think eclipse what Arena of Glory could possibly get you. Just from like
Mobile with Great Furnace is really really cool.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah. Let's
MDFCs for Chrome Mox are
yeah, that's what I meant.
it,
Mm-hmm.
it's significant.
Absolutely for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's come up a lot for me where I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I got 4 lands and one of them's an MDFC and a Chrome Mox. It's like, well, I'm going down to 6. I'll keep the Chrome Mox and
Mm-hmm.
you know get something out sooner.
It's very consistent. It helps your deck become a lot more consistent in terms of acceleration.
That's
Um
very important. Yes, being one turn ahead of the clock as far as dropping early mana is really important in my tournament meta.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
People have
say
been trying to convince me to run Mox Diamond, and I'm still on the fence about that one too, just because. But they say,
Nah,
well,
that card's dope.
your
That
land
card's
card's high enough for it. Just run Mox
so
Diamond, and I was like,
the this is something that like I feel very passionate about because we're a monocolor deck with no card draw. Any other
Mhm.
deck in the format, whether they're on 24 lands, 22 lands, whatever, sure, go ahead, run Mox Diamond. I don't care. Uh, because you can use your Thrasios, or not your Thrasios, but you can like off your Rhystic Study or your Esper Sentinel or whatever, draw a land that can be used in the mid game to play that spell.
Mhm.
But the only way that we ever play Mox Diamond is specifically on turn 1 in a 6 or a 7. If you are super land heavy, which are usually hands you don't want to keep anyway,
mhm.
Right? Absolutely.
and then if you get wheeled into it in a land in the mid game. Otherwise, the card sits in hand and does nothing. Unlike Chrome Mox, it can't be played for 0 and sit on the field. It just gets removed immediately.
Yep.
Um, so like,
And there have
and,
been times when playing a Chrome Mox for 0 is the play.
yep,
Like I just needed another artifact to be able to untap to initiate my combo, and the Chrome Mox got me there. So
I like I even have a lot of the math in the actual Mox Diamond section about like why why it's really just not for us.
mhm.
Um, so I don't know.
Thank
The
The
you, because I've been on the fence and having that discussion quite a lot, and they almost had me convinced. So I'm really glad that I got to talk with you guys about it.
just the last thing I'll say about this is, about the mana production in general. The way in which we structure our deck, and I think as we've continued to shift that direction a little bit, you know how you look at Kinnan and envy and be like, damn, that could be me with that kind of mana production. With Furdock, with Torque, with Relic of Legends, with consistent Chrome Moxes, with artifact lands that turn on Mopal, right? You're talking in a world where you feel a little bit more like Kinnan. And get to play with your toys a little bit more, and you're not just like a sad boy on curve, you know? And there's just a lot more freedom there and a lot more rebuild potential and a lot less, ooh, if I get blown out right here, I likely cannot come back in the game. Rather, and then if you're playing like Kinnan with Kinnan mana, you're more like, oh, if they blow me out right here, I'll just win next turn. I'll do a Rog Thras. I'll just win next turn. It feels better. It feels more consistent. You get to play more confidently, and you don't have to sandbag nearly as much, which is something we were preaching, a year and a half ago of that finding that middle, that like be the second problem thing. I don't think we have to do that nearly as much, and you get to do that better and more consistently with better mana production.
Even though that's the case, we
Mhm.
are still the best deck in the format on curve. Undeniably.
Certainly.
So, like, in the worst case scenario, like, your opponents go down to 5 or 4, like, you're fine on curve. It's cool. But in the situations where like all these incremental advantages help you with that potential to be a turn ahead mana wise, like that's currently why the Nomicon and why my personal deck and stuff is set up the way that it is as far
And you
as
know
mana
what?
production goes.
And you know what Magda does well that not all decks can deal with is that turn one wheel. Is there have been times that the player in first seat dropped all their stuff, turn one wheel, and then other players just couldn't play. But Magda's got so much, utility that if you have to throw away that perfect mulligan and you get a new one, you're not necessarily blown out. You're still in there.
Right.
Yeah,
And that
it's
is definitely a difference.
Magda, like Yuriko, being a kindred deck, has the benefit of following the rule of 8 a lot closer than pretty much any other deck in the many other decks in the format. That any conjunction of cards will present inevitability, pretty much. Not fast,
And
but playable.
And on the other side of that, I want to warn the community, if you get that first hand and you're like, yeah, it's playable, it's probably not good enough because Magda will give you that hand 9 times out of 10 where it's like, okay, it does a curve thing, but that might not actually get you the win. Don't be afraid to aggressively mulligan down to a strategy that you need.
Absolutely. But
Yep.
also on the other side is also look at your pod. And if your pod is
Mm-hmm.
something that goes, okay, I can still, expect them to be interacting here. Maybe I can keep a slower hand and go under the radar. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's also a very important strategic aspect of things as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's move on to the next slide because it's a little weighty. Before we press on, how's everyone on time?
I'm good.
I'm getting close on time. Like, if we could, keep it quick, then I'd really appreciate that.
We can
My
do that.
social life is, or my personal life is a little bit constrained.
All good. We can work through this. So, okay, this is probably gonna be the slide that has the most like, oof, ouch, my bones. Realm Scorcher, Ariettes, and I'm gonna say Dual Caster Mage. Feels like I'm looking at a Dwarven catalog from early 2024. In a way where I feel like you're dedicating a lot of slots to something that is, I'm not gonna say provably suboptimal, but close to that realm of a discussion where we're like, you have to twist your brain a little bit to find the optimal edge cases for these cards. And I want to give you the opportunity to discuss where we have all lost our minds.
No, no,
So
no,
You're,
absolutely not. And this is probably one of my deficiencies that, like I said, my personal life, I'm constrained. So I really can't dedicate as much time as I want to dedicate to CDH. um Much to my kids' chagrin. But anyway, so Dualcaster is in there as an interaction piece. Sometimes it copies something that I really should not have access to, like an adnos. Oh my gosh, getting an adnos in Magda is fire. Getting like some of the fringe cases where Magical Christmas Land, just being able to copy a spell. And I know we have Flare of Duplication, so we do have access to do that without the Dualcaster. It just feels good to have the Dualcaster sometimes, especially if somebody plays a creature tutor and you could say, oh, that'll get my roaming throne, I'll just copy that with my Dualcaster. The other thing is Ariets. Ariets is a oh temporary removal. So if somebody has an oppo out there, I can take the oppo, I can do my thing, I can win. If somebody has a any piece that you need to go. Somebody has an arbiter out there, Grand Arbiter, you just take that and then you're protected for your win. If somebody has a Drannith Magistrate, oh, I'll just take that for a turn, and guess what? Now I can cast Magda, and then if I don't win here with what I'm trying to do, then I'll just give it back to you end of turn to shut the next person out, so that it's not I'll let the next person after me win. So that's a case for Ariat. Also, it can get me another treasure because it can untap and go. It's a Wincon strategy if I want to do loop lines with my graveyard recycling, where I can have people lose life, which is a way to win through damage prevention effects. And what was the third card? The Realm Scorcher Hellkite?
yeah, we
He's my
talked in
pet.
that. We
Yeah. He's the dragon. And which I really need to cut him because you guys make really excellent points for you can do other things. You're wasting a slot that could be used for something else with higher value potential.
you're also dedicating a couple cards to Dualcaster Mage when it's not something that it's realistically going to come up that much for us. Heat Shimmer, and I'm also personally playing Molten Duplication right now. I think that card is good enough on its own.
Excuse me?
Excuse me?
Did you say
Yeah, it
molten
gets you there.
duplication?
Yes, I
Yeah,
did.
because it gives you an artifact dwarf when you need an artifact dwarf.
Or a copy of Portal to Phyrexia.
God, it only took you like a year to finally get you to play molten duplication.
Again, because don't forget, I played it when we were on Dockside.
So heat shimmer actually I like for other reasons. If
Mhm.
somebody has a really strong piece, I like to copy it. Like let's say somebody has an Natali, then I get an Natali trigger or something like that. So it's not always as, oh, this is just in here for Dualcaster Mage. It has a lot of value just in a game.
Bowmaster. Bowmaster.
Yes.
Bowmaster.
Oh my
Bowmaster.
gosh. Copy a Bowmaster, kill your Bowmaster. Oh, I forgot about that one. That just makes me warm all over. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some value there. As far as that happening. Obviously, it can be countered, just like everything else. Dualcaster Mage has less ability to be countered because it's a creature, which does make it a little bit better in some regards. But Dualcaster Mage as a card is so narrow as far as time frame when it's good, and usually we don't have the mana, like you said earlier, to
Mhm.
be keeping up for it usually. So like if the game goes long, then sure, it's great. But like super early game, it's usually not the thing. Um,
And one thing that I'd like to say, because my list is so different than the usual Magda, I get a lot of surprise reactions out of my pods where I do something completely unexpected. Um,
Absolutely.
and and that gives me Brewer's advantage, even though you think I wouldn't have Brewer's advantage because Magda's a known deck. Like people know what it does and how it wins and everything. But I have a little bit of that advantage on the fringe.
Oh yeah, like there aren't a lot of people playing Dualcaster Mage, so when someone plays it, someone's like, I have not force of will. This resolves.
Yeah, exactly. And creatures are so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
So I run a lot of creatures.
Most of the things that stop us, like Legion Extruder, is something that Rust and I have been playing. It acts as a Wincon. It acts as a way to get rid of Cage, which you're not on, so that's not as important to you.
I'm trying to wrap this up, but
Yeah.
really trying.
We have one more card we should talk about, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, probably so. You wanna handle that one?
Yeah, but like,
Okay, I'll prepare myself.
okay. We wanted to ask your opinion. Well, you've already said you're thinking about getting rid of Welder. You're thinking about getting rid of Realm Scorcher Hellkite, and we don't really need to touch on those, right?
Right.
Iriette gets way worse when you take out Welder because there's no combo synergy anymore with it. Um, so that's something to keep in mind. But the card that Rust and I wanted to talk about was Guild Artisan. How has that been for you?
Oh my gosh, it overperforms so much. You'd think that it wouldn't, but the number of times that's gotten me to an activation. So it it usually doesn't get me to a win. It's usually a turn 2 or turn 3 play that gets me to 5 treasures. And then I have an activation. The activation that I usually get off of that one when I have to swing at the player with the highest life total, which usually is not an advantageous attack, is usually an effective board wipe because I can get portal. And
Right.
that slows down. Like I said, my meta has a lot of X Thras decks, which are going for the guy's cradle strategies. So it really decimates everyone. And then the incremental value of getting their best pieces back out of the graveyard for me breaks parity so hard that I usually end up ahead in those games or winning those games.
And you don't even have to actually do it. You can just be like, hey, if you want to decide that you're going to block, cool, I'll activate and get portal. But if you want to let me through,
Absolutely.
like, at least you have a chance to win on turn 2 or whatever.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid as a Magda to play the head game. You gotta just talk to people because that's huge. Honestly, in the Mulligans tournament, the reason why I had that board state to win is because I just swung my Magda into an Expert Sentinel or some kind of value engine. And
Right.
I was like, and they were like, why are you swinging? And I was like, I need the treasures. You can block it. We'll both be out of this game. And they didn't.
Exactly.
And that's just it. Sometimes you gotta have the balls to get out there.
Exactly.
You need the
Swing the
stones.
Magda and then get blocked by a Bloom Tender and be out of the game with the Sisay player, and you
Hell
both
yeah.
know it.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And the newer players are gonna throw whatever their value engine under the bus is, and then you guys won't win, but I won't win, you won't win. That's fine. And then maybe later I'll go for another win. But the when you're getting in those top 4, those top 16s, you're gonna really think about that because you can't draw,
So
and people know it.
that whole process of like forcing a card into your hand and seeing what it does for like your opening hand. Like Rust and I were like sitting here doing hands, and I'm forcing Guild Artisan in my hand. I'm like, Russ, it's a turn 2 activation. Russ, it's a turn 3 activation every game,
Mhm.
every time. And he's just like, man, you're gonna make me want to actually play this card. And I'm like, I might play it for the tournament.
Look, guys, I wasn't playing that, and then I played against another Magda who was, and I was like, this needs to go in my deck. This absolutely is, and I'm typically not ever disappointed because you don't have to get damage. It's not a damage trigger; it's an attack trigger.
Is
Which means
this?
it
And
gets doubled by Roaming Throne.
Yep.
yeah, yeah, it does. And that's actually happened before. And it's
So
so many treasures.
is this like the Gadrak we wanted?
Yes.
Hmm.
In a way.
It's kind of the Gadrak and or the what's the spiteful looting or whatever it's called?
Spiteful Banditry.
Yeah,
Oh, I wanted that to be good. That's
me
I've
too.
been staring at that card, and I'm like,
It's
I
not.
think
Trust
it's
me.
there. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I had high
Time
hopes as well.
constraint. Next slide.
Yeah. All right. Oh, this. I mean, we've talked about the tournament already. It's fine. Is there anything from the between? Do you have anything you want to say about Legion Executor Show?
So, I've already talked about Twin Shot Sniper, and she said that she's going to be playing it again. The one card that I wanted to mention was, you mentioned the me making combo video stuff. Playing Pinnacle Monk, now that we have Peter Parker's camera, gives us a way to win without Barkform Harvester and without Roaming Throne. So it's a land that acts as a win condition, and it needs to be in your deck.
Pretty good.
I'll just
Oh,
end there.
send me a link because, like I said, I'm behind on some times and I need to watch that video. Like, legit. Stat.
Of course. And, you know, we're always up to, talking about or helping people go through their list and make changes and stuff. So if that's something that you ever want to do, we are always down for that. But I will definitely
Oh,
send you a link to that video after this is over.
this has been so great, guys.
I'm glad.
Like, thank you. I feel like I won the ability to get lessons from the best. This is great.
Don't do that. My head's already pretty
Oh, shush,
inflated.
I will give you compliments. I will give you compliments.
I
and
just
you will
make
take them.
sure the mine cards run on time, okay? But for the record, you have won a tournament. I have not.
Exactly.
And you've
There
done
aren't very many of us that have won a tournament. So
yeah. So congratulations to you again. Thank you for being so open and vulnerable when we, straight up told you, hey, there might be some minor bullying. Uh,
Hey,
and
I welcome that. Like I said, you're helping me, guys.
and being able to discuss like some things we haven't really addressed in a long time is useful for us and the community. But to respect your time, let's just go ahead and do a quick sign off. I wanted to give you an opportunity to plug your store front and your stuff. I will absolutely throw a link down in the description of this video when it goes out to people and in the announcement when I throw it up. So we can handle that afterwards. But where can people find you?
So I have an Etsy shop, Perky Green Fairy, that I do customize altars, like an altar sleeves and proxies. So check me out. I have a TikTok, Perky_GRN_fairy, TikTok and Instagram. So whenever I get a custom request, I'll put up a video. So it's actually gotten quite a bit of views lately. And so check me out and follow me, and we'll see if we can get up to enough subscribers where it matters. So
Right, I got you.
This Yestola Garfield one is so cool.
oh, you're looking! I'm so excited.
This
I have
is so cool.
So Notorious actually requested, the secret lair of Magda where it's the wanted poster.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
Danny DeVito, and it says Danny. Yeah, so that one's up there too. I have a few Magdas, and I definitely have tokens for like Maskwood Nexus tokens because you gotta have Maskwood Nexus, and it's like part dragon, part dwarf. I got some artifact dwarfs, which are copy tokens. So I probably need to put all that up on the shop, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
If you need anything, hit me up.
Yeah, we will make sure the stuff is spread far and wide. Again, thank you so much for your time, Sho and Rust. As always, thank you so much for being the smarter dwarves in the room to talk about some of this stuff. And to all the dwarves that were listening, thank you for giving us your time and your energy. And we hope this has helped you, mine some wins in the future.